Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Rishabh Gulati. Now, we're going to have a very complex, very serious, very deep conversation. Now, the question is, why are we having it? So, if you've been following reports everywhere that have been alluding all sorts of things, that this has happened in this judge and then this and money and crores of rupees and it was burning and so found it. What do we actually know? We know that a story was published in a leading national newspaper this morning, which alluded that during an incident of a fire that took place at the residence of a sitting High Court judge in Delhi on the intervening night of the 14th and 15th of March, that monies were seen or spotted or were indeed aflame, and we've not heard any public discourse on it for 6 days until it was published this morning. Subsequently, every speculation and rumor book out there is out on full throttle. Now, there is a conundrum in this, and I was alluding to it a short while before. What is the difference between professional journalism and social media warrior journalism? Is that when we see a report like this or are given information like this, the first question we have to ask our reporters, editors, colleagues, ourselves: how do we verify this information? And you verify the information by the sniff test. You speak to people that has something like this actually happened, is there something like this has happened, and people whom you trust would be in the know. The next question you ask: what is there on record that states something like this has happened? The answer to the sniff test is that many people who have been doing or been part of the legal system for decades, many of them are convinced something has happened. So that's the sniff test. Nobody knows exactly what, and there is absolutely nothing on record anywhere that indicates anything that has been reported. So what do we have? Let's put it on our screens. We have a fire report which has been filed that yes, there was a fire that took place on the at 30 Tughlaq Road at 11:30 on the 14th. The fire tenders responded within 9 minutes. They doused a minor flame with no injuries or casualties, and they were there for roughly 2 hours, after which they exited. The report says that what was on fire was stationery and domestic items. It doesn't say any cash. The Delhi fire chief has now gone on record and saying he doesn't know about any cash. We know that there is a diary entry in the police records, but it is not open to public. Beyond that, we have a statement from the Supreme Court now, which we'll put on our screens. And the statement of the Supreme Court, in a sense, tells us that there is misinformation and rumor mongering which is going on, that there is a transfer of this judge that has taken place, which has nothing to do with an in-house inquiry. Let's put the statement on our screens, please. So the statement says the transfer of the judge in question to the Allahabad High Court, which took place on the 20th of March, has nothing to do with the in-house inquiry. But it does seem to suggest that there is an in-house inquiry. But we have no knowledge on what the in-house inquiry is about. What is the subject of the inquiry? We have no knowledge. So now this is where things stand. So now what do we have? We have two options. Both are reasonable. Is wait, be patient. If there is a worst case scenario that there is fire to the smoke and something has actually gone wrong, then we are being told that the Supreme Court of India's highest officer, the Chief Justice of the country, is seized of the matter, is aware of the matter, is looking into the matter. So let's be patient. Let's be reasonable. Let that person or an agent of that person, or through a statement or a notification or a release, let us be told once they've completed due procedure what has actually happened. Let's be patient, let's give it a day or two. The other is that if we here in the mainstream media do not tell you what I've just told you, that we don't know anything right now, we will let the speculation online and elsewhere go out of control with absolutely no mechanism of addressing it, because not the police, not the fire service, not government, not anybody is saying these are the facts of the case. So we'll have to go today with the latter, that we're going to have to address it, having put out the facts at the get-go, having put out the reality that there's an information vacuum. So a large percentage of a conversation is going to be speculative, and what we do not want is a matter of such serious gravitas, unprecedented. Never in my career have I seen something like this. Then how do we have this conversation? So now Joyita Basu, the editor of the Sunday Guardian, is with us. Joining us on the broadcast is KV Dhananjay and Vikas Gupta. Both are advocates. Joyita, now let me address with you from a journalistic hat, because you have the same conundrum I do, right? There is nothing on record, there is no FIR, there is no paper we can examine, there is no statement, there is not even an individual on record willing to say that yes, I am witness to such and such act. At the same time, everybody is talking about it. It's published everywhere. So what do we do?
It's a cover up. That's the only word that comes to my mind. I mean, sadly enough, it shouldn't have happened. As you said, this is something unprecedented. We have not ever heard of something like this. But the very fact that a sudden, I would say an iron curtain has been dropped on that matter, it seems like it is stinking of being a cover up. And that is extremely, extremely unfortunate, because it involves the judiciary. Already we can see the lawyers in Allahabad High Court, they are protesting the transfer of this judge. And as a common man, as a common man and woman, I would like to know, when any such cash discovery maybe in the house of a politician, that has certain consequences. Police gets involved, so many things. Okay, now it is being said nothing has been discovered, but the fact of the matter is that are our judges above the law? I mean, and shouldn't there be more transparency? Don't we Indians don't we citizens have the right to know that some of these, and not all of them, the judiciary as a whole, which is sitting on us and adjudicating and deciding what is going to happen with our lives and all, why shouldn't they be transparent?
So now hold that thought, okay? Because that is the conundrum, that if a lay person is assuming that where there is smoke there is fire, that something dodgy has taken place, unless we attempt to address it with reasonableness and facts, they are going to draw that conclusion, and it's going to be an unhappy conclusion which we do not want people to draw. We want to ensure that whatever we do in all the fulcrums that we operate in, which is the executive, the legislative, the judicial, and the fourth estate, which is the media, that number one, we are not doing a media trial. Number two, we are not doing idle speculation. But number three, we are addressing the more than idle speculation, which is now rampant in this country, because otherwise trying to shut the door after the house is bolted will become too much. It will become well nigh impossible. So now let me put some further information on record. Sambhav and Anand, my colleagues, are now with us on the broadcast. So now, Sambhav, we have a statement from the Delhi Fire Police Chief. He says nothing has been found. He has no knowledge of any cash. We have the record of the fire service, which does not mention any cash. We have a statement from the Supreme Court which says that The transfer proceedings are a separate matter, that there is misinformation going on, but also says that there is an in-house inquiry underway. Beyond this, do we have anything else now? What's the latest?
Absolutely, we have yes. So this is all we have. On one hand, we have a copy of this fire report. On the other hand, we have a Supreme Court's note where which is talking about a probable potential transfer on one hand and an in-house inquiry on the other hand, but both are independent of each other. This is what is said in that note. And also denial of any incidents happened there at the judge's house on 14th of March.
So who's denying it? Is that the Delhi police, fire police chief who's denying it? Who's denying it?
No, these are the rumors, right? The fire incidents which happened. There is misinformation and rumors being spread regarding the incident of the fire at the residence of Justice Yashwant Verma. This is what exactly is the Supreme Court notice saying.
Okay. So the Supreme Court has issued a statement suggesting that this is misinformation and rumors. What we do not know is what part of it is misinformation and rumors. Is it the whole part? Is it some part? Has absolutely nothing happened? We don't know, but we have to take them at face value. The face value is misinformation and rumors are being spread. Now, complicated task. Vikas Gupta and KV Dhananjay. KV Dhananjay, let me come to you, sir. We know, you and I both, that everybody in the legal fraternity, not just the media, okay, because the media gets the whipping stick. Today I've been ironically pulled up by a former Delhi High Court Delhi High Court judge of being too cautious when something atrocious like this has taken place. So I'd rather be too cautious than to be hyperbolistic. So, but you and I both know that everybody is discussing this, that something has happened. We know the cat is out of the bag in terms of the rumor mongering, whatever speculation that is going on. Now, if I don't even attempt to address it with what I do know and what I don't know, it'll be sticking your head in the sand. So, what do we do, sir?
We have to make some assumptions, and we have to make a few reasonable assumptions. Now, we know that the bar in Allahabad is up against the transfer order, and the transfer at the end of the day, should be there for some reason. So the Allahabad bar certainly believes in this story that's appeared in the media in Delhi, and therefore they have come out in protest, and the Supreme Court's clarification, I don't think goes far enough to dispel the story that has come out. It was expected, more was expected of the Supreme Court. At the end of the day, it's not enough to say that a news story in a media is false or it's gossiping. They have to specifically, there is something, when we file written statements in the civil court, we are expected to traverse whatever allegation has been made. Now, if there is an allegation that says, I have continued to stay in a house, and I basically answer that this allegation is nullified, it's bogus, it's false, and don't say where I stay, or don't specifically say that I'm not staying in a particular house, then you know what the court does? The court would say that because you've not specifically traversed it, and you only negatived it in general terms, we will take it like you admitted it. It's called a doctrine of non-traverse. It's part of our civil procedure code. Now, judges know this. The Supreme Court certainly is expected to know that in public domain, when there is a media reporting of this nature, then they were expected to offer more information. The fact that they have not done simply lets people make assumptions, and at the end of the day, I think we all have an obligation to discuss these matters in public, because the court is not saying enough, and you have the bar up in arms now in Allahabad. So I think this is a matter of public concern, and I think there is a need to make a few reasonable assumptions. It's unnecessary to go over to the final conclusion, but I think it's important to make those assumptions and then move on. If there was a fire service that came over and then they stumbled or they did report, why is it all kept in a hush manner? Why is it not transparent? Now, there is, of course, corruption within the judiciary, not just because people say there is corruption, or that, you have had the Chief Justices of the Supreme Court, in the past say that, and it is a matter of record. So long as we are one of the most corrupt countries in the world
Okay,
today.
all right. Okay, okay, Mr. Sanjay, I want to follow up with the question of what is then reasonable. Is it reasonable to say that the person at the center of it can and should be presented with a chance to explain himself, and the only person High Court judge explains himself to is either his Chief Justice or the Chief Justice of India? That he should be presented with such an opportunity. He is of course free to claim that he has no idea what funds and what cash and it was potentially planted. I have no idea, I was not in town. He can make whatever defense. What is a reasonable amount of time that he should be given to make that defense? And therefore, what is it reasonable? Because if we are being told be patient, listen and wait while we go through due procedure, fair enough. What is a reasonable amount of time?
Well, judges should be above suspicion. So it would have been fine if the judge had come forward to issue a press statement or a clarification and say that this allegation that's been leveled against me holding a sum of money, large enough that I might not be in a position to account for it, is not true, or qualify it. Again, it would be difficult to qualify it. Our laws, the income tax law, practically makes it difficult for people to hold large amount of cash in their house. So it would have been proper or expected on the part of the judge to come out, and because judges should be above suspicion at the end of the day. Expectations from the public will vary depending upon the kind of power that's exercised by a public servant. Judges of high courts, at the end of the day, wield enormous power. It's nearly impossible to remove them. In fact, we've removed none after the passage of the Constitution. So, considering the great power that a judge occupies, it would have been expected of the judge to come
last
forward
technical
and
question.
offer this clarification.
Okay, last technical question. I am assuming, sir, because there is precedent that exists in this, that if the person in question, who happens to be a sitting judge, or any other individual, could be you and me, if we feel that absolutely no basis in reality subject of information is being circulated and published, would that person have the right to approach the court and ask for a restraining of that piece of information from being published?
Absolutely. It's entirely possible. You might see some order tomorrow coming out of the civil court in Delhi that says that this reporting is absolutely false in terms of the complaint or the petition filed by the judge in question, because nobody can pass an order upon anyone and say, look, just don't publish it. It has to be a civil court that offers it on a petition or a plaint filed by the judge in question. It's entirely possible. The judge might have been aggrieved here because the whole report is false. It's entirely possible. That's something that we can't rule out at this point of time. So it's possible the judge believes that the better option is to go over to a civil court, state that all of this falls on an affidavit, and then seek an injunction because the damage is irreparable. And should he file a plaint to that effect, maybe if he's filed one today, he can expect an order, without any difficulty from the civil court in Delhi. That of course would apply across the country.
Last question quickly, within reasonableness, before I get Vikas Singh into this. Within reasonableness, is it necessary, is there either rule or reasonableness that suggests that if a transfer of a judge has taken place, which we are being told by the court authorities is not connected to an in-house inquiry, that we then be told why is the transfer happening if it is not connected to the in-house inquiry and it happens to be coincidentally at the same time as the in-house inquiry?
Transfer is something that the transferor, that is the collegium, ought to explain, and perhaps the collegium could have explained what was the basis for the transfer today. The fact that they have not done is only going to heighten suspicion in the mind of lawyers, because transfer is not simply routinely done. Nobody is going to be transferred from one high court to the other unless there is a good reason to transfer that person. And you had eminent lawyers come out and talk about it already in the open. Of course, you're a leading news channel, but eminent lawyers have already come out and expressed their minds. So I think this matter is not so much in the realm of speculation at this point of time. A large number of people have taken it to be an objective fact And so the Supreme Court, I think, should come out, or maybe the judge should himself come out and clarify, or if he believes this is completely false, maybe tonight or maybe tomorrow he should, ask for a, stoppage of this kind of reporting, because it hurts. It hurts everybody.
It does. No doubt about it. Let me get Vikas Singh into this. Vikas ji, so here we are. I have stated the facts after having spent, of course, the better part of the entire day trying to verify them. My colleague Sambhav is standing there with you, and he's been at it all day. And the facts tell us that there is nothing on record to even faintly suggest that any cash has been found anywhere. Now, what do we do?
We've been busy with today was, I presume that you are aware that all Delhi courts, the district courts and the High Court was the election day. It was a simultaneous elections in all the district courts and the Delhi High Court. And all the reports we've been reading throughout the day from various social media and news channels was carrying out an extensive coverage of what was published in Times of India this morning. So I'm really surprised by the twist in the sequence of events or in the story. I'm hearing it for the first time that there is a denial from the Supreme Court that what all has been published is rumor and there is no truth in it. So, well, we probably on this, will have to wait for a little longer, because the transfer orders came and probably then the Allahabad High Court resolution was circulated all over the social media and media channels, and subsequent to that we read in the media channels that the Supreme Court has initiated an in-house inquiry, and that is what was also suggested by some of the collegium members when the transfer order was passed. So I really do not understand that how this twist in the story has taken place and what has transpired behind the curtains. I really have no idea.
Okay, so we know from the statement of the Supreme Court that there is indeed an in-house inquiry, but as I have mentioned repeatedly, we do not know what is the subject matter of the inquiry. We have to assume that they are referring to the inquiry of the judge who has been transferred. So there is an in-house inquiry against this judge. We know whether that has concluded, has heard, has met, what it is inquiring upon, who the officers of the court who have been asked to conduct the inquiry, we do not know. We were once again told, but there is nothing on record for me to verify, that the CGI has asked the Delhi High Court Chief Justice to look into the matter and submit a report. We were told today. Now, whether he actually did this, we don't know. So there is now information vacuum,
Rishabh,
and that is an unhappy thing. Yes, because go ahead.
Let us not speculate what the Supreme Court is doing or what they have asked. Let us see what has been the sequence of events today. If this fire or whatever has happened on the night of 14th and 15th, intervening night of 14th and 15th, I think what was the least expected was that why was it not brought into public domain for the last 7 days? That is one point that raises suspicion. Second is, a very senior lawyer today mentioned in the court of the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, and he said that the entire lawyers community, the judiciary, everyone is dissatisfied in the sense that they are disheartened and they are saddened by the sequence of events and the report that is published in Times of India. And the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court said that so are we. So I really do not know that what now has transpired in last 8-9 hours, what has gone behind, because I'm just out from the midst of the election.
So process. Like I said, sir, I mean the statement, we'll put the statement on our screens again. Can we put the Supreme Court statement on our screens again? They say misinformation and rumors. They say misinformation and rumors. They don't say what part is misinformation and rumors. It could be that there is some hyperbole surrounding this. Somebody might be, because there are people speculating on the amount of money. Okay. Large amount is subjective. My large amount and your large amount need not necessarily be the same. So we don't know what they are referring to as misinformation, but what it seemed to be. Like I said, there is a sniff test. The sniff test seemed to tell us that the Delhi High Court Chief Justice indicated that they were seized of the matter. They were aware of the matter and they were also troubled by the matter. This is what the impression we got this morning. Now, that would indicate that there is some matter. We have a confirmation that there is indeed an in-house inquiry. So, now let us cut through the brass tacks. Sambhav, okay, if you are still with us, let us go hop across to Anand as well. Anand, if you can hear us, can we have both of them? Can we get both of them back, please? Because I want to actually report the facts. Joyita, let us come in on this. Now, where do we reasonably address this? Because it can't be the nodal authority of the Delhi police. It can't be the fire service certainly coming and telling us they are no investigating authority. Does it? There are Congress MPs out there who are saying government should answer on this matter. Should we leave it with the Supreme Court to now address it reasonably?
Well, even if we leave it with the Supreme Court to address the matter, but the fact of the matter is that now there is a very serious, I would say, I mean certain very suspicious things must have gone on. So, I think it is the duty of the Supreme Court, while treating their brother judge as in whichever manner they want to be,
fairly,
it is their duty to come clean to the public. Because you see, there is already a lot of unhappiness because on the matter the judges are selected. There is problem with the collegium system, and it is not just the common people, that the citizens of the country talking about it. Even among the lawyer community, even in the judiciary, there are people who want this collegium system to be scrapped. And there is always, whenever this attempt happens about more transparency, we need more transparency, there is always this fight back from a particular section of the judiciary saying that we know best, don't bother us.
Okay, but
this has to change.
Okay, but at the same time, you have something called the Judges Protection Act of 1985, which predates to an original legislation from the 1850s. And you need to protect your judges, you need to keep them independent, and yes, potentially an unprecedented Pandora's box gets opened here, and which we, in very muddied waters, we lose the original issue and then get into all the other issues of appointment and removal. But there is a premise to say that sometimes action is to be done and also seen to be done. Both apply. Now, either this is an absolute untruth, it is a figment of somebody's imagination that has been put in a national daily, okay, and then in the Bhed Chal has been copy pasted everywhere else. So, either this is total Huey nonsense, and then it needs to be addressed as such, that nothing like this has happened, this is total nonsense, okay, and we walk away from this tomorrow morning, or we are told that okay, something has happened, it's not to the level of what is being reported in terms of the permutations and combinations of it, but this is the action that we intend to take. Let me hop across to Anand. Anand, do we now know, as we head into the intervening night of tonight and tomorrow, that whether the judge in question is issuing a statement, will be issuing a statement, will he be himself as a citizen going to court to seek a redressal of what potentially are charges that he might feel are malified? Have you heard from the judge?
Yeah, so look, since the time we have been for around past several hours, we have been outside the residence of Justice Yashwant Verma at 30 Tughlaq Crescent Road. And just 45 minutes back, we returned back to his residence over here. However, when we tried to speak to him, he completely kept the window of his vehicle closed and he directly entered inside his residence, and there were security persons at his residence who clearly asked not to come close to the vehicle of Justice Verma. And now we have learned from our people over here, as there are several rounds of meeting that have happened with Justice Verma, as some of the sources at his residence have indicated that there were a number of visitors since morning, and Justice Verma had a meeting with them, had a brief meeting with them, and he even received some of them in his lawn. So clearly, it is yet to be known whether he is going to release any kind of statement or whether he will be going to join the court proceedings tomorrow. As today, he has already mentioned that he will not be coming to court and he will be on leave. So it will be interesting to see whether he comes for tomorrow and he addresses the concerns that have been raised today following the report that was published in the newspaper, which mentioned about an adverse report and due to which the Supreme Court Collegium decided to transfer him to Allahabad.
Okay, Sambhav, do we know whether the court has indeed listed matters before Justice Verma tomorrow?
Well, next 24 hours are going to be very, very crucial for this whole episode, this whole matter. However, as you rightly said, the best approach is going to be wait and watch approach, because it is the judiciary of the country we are talking about. And when you let's also talk about the cases before Justice Yashwant Verma for tomorrow. So far, as per the cause list of the Delhi High Court, no such cases before his bench. Now it is to be seen tomorrow whether he sits in the Delhi High Court or he will be on leave. However, there is no official confirmation from the Delhi High Court about his leave so far.
Okay, so we don't know, but so we know he was on leave today, but we don't know whether he's taking leave tomorrow. We are not aware whether cases will be listed for him tomorrow or not, but it seems currently there aren't any. Let me get back to KV Dhananjay. So KV Dhananjay, like I said, there is a bit of fishing in the dark that we are doing here. I don't want to do too much of it, but in the face value of it, either we are told by someone, perhaps the individual himself, through the form of a statement. He doesn't need to speak to the press, but some statement that listen, this is all nonsense, and I will be approaching the Supreme Court tomorrow, asking for this nonsense to be quashed and put away. And I'm assuming that the meetings that he's holding with people could be either innocuous meetings, but there is a fact he didn't take court today.
Well, I do not think it would be a good idea for the judge in question to go to the collegium, because the collegium certainly does not have the authority to tell the media or the public at large to not talk about this issue. And that kind of a restraint can only come from a civil court, where the judge would go and then the media house would be made a respondent. The media house then would have the opportunity to cross-examine the judge. So I do not think the collegium has the power. In what you just said, the collegium is assumed to possess a certain power. They don't have that power. This is a country limited by a constitution, written constitution. Every organ, while supreme in its allotted sphere, also works within limitations. So maybe the judge should approach a civil court rather than
okay, so KV Dhananjay, what is now, I know we're not going to put the matter to bed tonight. Okay. Like I said, the horse is bolted, the cat is out of the bag, and the only way we address it is by addressing with what facts we have on the ground, in the absence of somebody who actually wants to bell this. Nobody wants to really talk about it. But there are a lot of people, including people who have served in all sorts of positions as Attorney General, Solicitor Generals, presidents of bar associations, all of them are talking about this. And many of them are incensed and convinced that something untoward has taken place. Now, either all of them are in hallucination mode, that they're all hallucinating it, or they've all been brought into a malified rumor, which can happen. I'm not saying it can not possible, or there is something troubling which we need to address with some information. What do we do, KV Dhananjay, as we wrap up? What should we do?
Well, I think it's important to keep within a leash. The discussion, of course, has to be within a leash. It cannot go beyond a point. So I think this was a very meaningful discussion, and maybe this will have to go on until more clarity emerges, after which point, of course, the people will be calling for more action, maybe a prosecution of the judge, or for that matter, if this report was unfounded, perhaps a redressal. I mean, to ask questions to the media on what basis it made this article, because at the end of the day, the media, of course, has written this. One would have expected the media to also go over to the judge and place this information in the possession of the judge and ask for a comment from the judge, or if the judge would refuse to comment, to say that much. That would have been, I think, it's not necessary, that would have been ideal, but then media organizations understand that sometimes they would not really have the liberty to, or the leisure to even, write about a story if the story is not immediately printed. I can understand that. Media organizations around the world have come to see sometimes that certain very sensitive matters, don't give them the luxury of waiting, or for that matter, going over.
Yes. Would it be reasonable protocol to put the information before a person and wait for them to respond in a reasonable amount of time before publishing or writing? Absolutely correct. Did that happen? I do not know. It's a different media organization. Would it be reasonable, like I said, to pass the sniff test, which means are there enough people you've spoken to who are also convinced that something like this happened? and number 2, to actually witness, there is something physical evidence for you to actually review in terms of an FIR or etc., which you feel you could report on. Now, that gradation varies, but was the information plucked out of thin air, that suddenly somebody woke up one morning and decided, you know what, I'm going to write a story without any basis of fact, and as a figment of my imagination I'll publish it? I don't know. The answer lies somewhere between those two extremes. Vikas Singh, quickly, what should happen now, sir?
For testing of Article 14 in this country, that equality before law, whether a judge or a common man is equal before law, I think that is something that needs to be seen in coming days.
Okay, Vikas Gupta, thank you. Joyita, last word, quick last word. What should happen?
Bring back trust in the judiciary. The country has lost. I mean, because you think of the kind of cases that have piled up. Now, there is this thing about, judges, and no offense meant to the judges going on vacation for months. It's not helping build their image. This is perhaps one of the worst blows the judiciary has received. It is time the judiciary self-corrected itself.
It is also reasonable to say that certain judges in this country could feel that an attempt is being made, in fact, to create or lessen the aura of the judiciary by other malified actors. And the answer to that is, I don't know. The truth can be either or all of the above. Are there complicated forces at play? Yes, they are far more complicated than, trust me, for you watching at home, and you and I can even begin to comprehend. When we are faced with complicated forces, many of them operating behind closed doors, for good reason and without, we can only address it through logic and reasonableness. And logic and reasonableness tells you that either absolutely nothing happened and we are all on some fairy chase up a garden path on the basis of the figment of somebody's imagination who is a storyteller and not a news journalist, or something has happened, in which case the only way you fight misinformation is with correct information. I leave it. See you in a minute.